Hello, Patronajects. It's Greg Alba here.
And my name is John.
So we're going to be doing the movie news of the week.
Oh, boy.
What's today's date, John?
It's
whatever. It's the past
June
last
16th.
week. It's in the title. Past week, there's about 5 stories. You two main ones. Patreon gets the main, all of them, blah, blah, blah. You know how this deal goes. The biggest ones. Let's start with the biggest ones we got today. All right. So, Justice League. More updates on the Justice of the League.
Uh-oh, look out.
I saw a thing recently about the guy who's going after Trump.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah?
Called the obstruction of Justice League because of his team.
Let's
Get that mofo impeached, people.
Let's do it.
Anyway, Justice League. Danny Elfman, he is set to compose the score for this movie.
Oh, boy.
And I think that is a fascinating choice because Danny Elfman is a very specific type of tone of any film that he works on. I know he's done a lot of Tim Burton films. He did the Batman and Batman Returns movies as well.
I feel like Tim Burton has a very distinct tone when he does genre, but there's other stuff, like when he does like dramas and things that aren't Tim Burton-y, I'm usually very surprised.
Yeah, well, he did Spider-Man too, right?
Yeah, he did the Sweets at least,
Yeah, he did the Spider-Man one, and I think that Danny Elfman bringing his musical score to this would be very interesting, because I know it was originally Junkie XL who did like Mad Max Fury Road, which is more along the lines of what I would expect Justice League to have for their, like that very, I don't know the word for it.
I mean, he seems like he's got a good grip on like orchestral elements with his producing background, electronics and stuff like that. And it sounds very dystopian, which sounds like Justice League to me. So yeah, this is a switch.
Elfman's he's kind of weird. He's a little bit on the wackier kind of fantasy element side with his music, I feel.
When he does genre, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I know he's got range because of those dramas I've seen. And this makes me curious because, like, Danny Elfman in this new environment, like many years after Spider-Man, I'm definitely curious about it. I don't know if we're going to hear all those, like, weird choruses and stuff, but
I think he would do that, though. I imagine Danny Elfman would do that. He does that for his kind of fantastical films. And the fact that he's in the Batman films, I'm wondering if when Batman has a certain scene or whatever, if he will somewhat do a rendition or something that sounds kind of similar to his famous Batman tune.
Yeah.
I think that would be very exciting. And I don't know, I just feel like Danny Elfman provides a totally different... Like, whenever I hear Danny Elfman's music in a movie, if I don't know he composed the music, I can usually guess it's Danny Elfman. That's how distinct his soundtracks are to me. And there's such a specific type of tone and style that goes over the film that, now that Zack Snyder had to step away in the post-production and Joss Whedon's taking over the post and Danny Elfman stepping in, I'm really wondering, like, it gets me weirdly more excited for the film. Not because like, oh, Zack Snyder stepped away, yay. It's because of the fact that this is going to be an interesting collaborative effort now. It seems like a lot is changing in the post-production aspect of it. The film's pretty much done in terms of shooting. Now I'm wondering how is this all going to come together now with this different, big-time creative collaborators coming together.
Yeah, how cohesive is it going to be and what's it going to look like and move like, especially, given... It seems like, a lot of people touch these movies right now, so...
Yeah, and also, it's not very long he has to do the score for this movie. This movie comes out just in a few months from now. So I'm wondering, I haven't read any reports that are like, oh, he doesn't have much time to do it. Everyone seems pretty confident that he'll get a solid soundtrack done just in time. I
mean, is he going to take over for what Junkie has started, or is he just writing it all up from scratch?
I'd like him to write it all up from scratch. I'd want it to go like full-on Elfman style.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see it.
What was the band he was...
Oingo Boingo. Just reunite Oingo Boingo. Just do a whole soundtrack.
I think you should go Oingo Boingo style the entire movie.
Yeah. I would hope for that. That's really what I want out of this.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, you're dealing with these elements that, where the Justice League trailer shows you these creatures that have nightmarish elements to it, and even that scene in BVS, the nightmare sequence. And I feel like Danny Elfman's really good with providing like that kind of nightmarish fantasy horror element type of music as well. That's why I think he's worked with Tim Burton so often.
Oh, totally.
And so I think, especially for those sequences, if he can provide some like awesome music for the villain sequences, that would be really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like he can amp up the fantasy vibe to this, you know.
This is definitely one of those question marks that I'm excited to see play out. You know?
And I think with like people like Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and yeah, he worked on Batman. I feel like he's just a perfect composer for this film.
I feel like Aquaman, he could probably write a pretty cool, theme for him.
I don't done with musical waves.
Yeah. Hey, no, that's what I'm saying though, because he's pretty creative. It seems like so.
Yeah, I think he's pretty experimental.
Yeah, and so I feel like he could. I don't know, if Aquaman. I know they're making it right now, so they probably already have some kind of theme in place, but. Yeah, like the sounds there, especially, I'm sure he would bring in sort of an aquatic element, something that sounds very spaced out and underwater-like, because those are always cool sounds, Danny Elfman, if there's one thing he's versatile and it's almost always out of the box somehow.
Oh, totally.
Even if it sounds like him. So yeah, this is definitely something that seems like it'll make this movie more distinct and not less distinct.
All right, people, X-Men Dark Phoenix is a go.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm very excited to see that character from X-Men Apocalypse.
The Last Stand.
The Last Stand.
What do you mean? Well, yeah, they're all.
Yeah, they keep hinting at Sansa being like, "Oh, there's something inside you, girl."
They did it with X-Men 2, and because X-Men 2 ends on Phoenix is gonna be in the next one.
Yeah.
And X-Men: The Last Stand is it's a pretty bad movie. And Simon Kinberg has one of the more fascinating relationships, I think, to the X-Men universe out of a lot of people behind the scenes, because the first movie he wrote for X-Men was X-Men: The Last Stand.
Yeah.
Where he was co-writer on it.
Best one of all.
And then he worked on the script for Days of Future Past, worked on the script for Apocalypse. He's also done a lot of the producing for films like Deadpool. He even shows the Legion, X-Force he's working on as well.
And, okay, so he produces all of the X-Men shit. Right.
And I believe this is his directorial debut. Fun fact, I met Simon Kinberg at his home once.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen?
I was doing a little job called Postmates.
No way.
And we are told in orientation to not, point out that we know them if they are someone famous.
Yes.
But I said, I'm not supposed to say this, but I'm a big fan of your work. I lied right to his face.
If he ever decides to subscribe to Patreon and see this.
No, I like a lot of the work he's done.
Too.
I do like most of the work he's done. And
I definitely know his name for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's one of the big names associated with the behind the scenes of the X-Men franchise for so many years. And so I think it's cool that he's going to be directing this. He's writing the script for it, and he's directing it. And I can't imagine. I feel like this is the kind of thing where this could be a redemption for him in some way.
Hopefully.
Because Dark Phoenix was the primary element that X-Men fans were excited for in X-Men: The Last Stand, the first script he worked on for the X-Men universe. And that was the first, what's the word? I'm going to say a failure of the X-Men franchise. That's the first downfall of...
the first time we were like, whoa, I don't know who's steering the ship.
Yeah. And so this is his chance to, maybe just do it right this time. Make it closer to the comics, from my understanding, is what he wants to do. And they're also getting the entire cast back from, X-Men Apocalypse to be in there. They got the J-Law, the Split actor, the Shame actor. The whole cast is back, which I'm very excited for. And I don't know. I just think I'd be very surprised if this one is not done well, because there's a lot riding on this one, and Simon Kinberg seems like the kind of guy to go, okay, Last Stand didn't turn out well. This is in some ways a semi-remake, not remake, it's more a reboot. Of the Dark Phoenix storyline.
Second chance to take on that story.
Second chance to take on that story. And at the same time, he's coming off of Apocalypse, which was not critically received well. Audience reception wasn't good for that, and it didn't do as well in box office numbers either. So I imagine he's really going to put the best film he could possibly put together for this specific installment right here.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and you know, I feel like he's definitely a jack of many trades. If you look at that IMDb page, he's done a lot of stuff.
He produces a hell of a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and he's also a writer, and he's written more than just the one script, you know? So I feel like even if this is his directorial debut, it seems like he's had enough time and experience around that he could make something pretty assured, and he's also got a wheelhouse of people who make these movies.
It seems like the kind of guy, he is that guy from behind the camera that I would want. Like when I heard that he was trying to direct an X-Men movie and he wanted to do this, I was immediately in full support of him doing it.
Yeah.
He seems like the right kind of guy to do it.
Yeah, I definitely want to see how he handles it, and I hope he does a good job, because, you know, it's nice to have somebody that's been along with this series for better and worse, you know, for so long, you know, because he produces Legion too, which everyone's losing their mind about right now.
And
so
I think it's fascinating too because he's worked on so many scripts as a writer or as a producer helping to develop the story. I think it'd be fascinating to see, like, okay, let's see what... Because oftentimes when a person writes a script, it's always the director's vision. It's the director's medium. They're interpreting the script a very specific way in their mind, and that's what you're seeing on the big screen.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of times the blame will go a lot more to the director. Like, he worked on The Last Stand, but, you know, everyone blames Brett Ratner for the film, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to go, Simon Kinberg fucked that film up.
Yeah. Brett Ratner in the studio.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
So... I'm interested to see, okay, now that he's worked on so many of the scripts, let's see him bring the vision that he keeps, like... Because I can imagine that oftentimes when he writes these scripts, it turns out different than how he was originally imagined it when he was writing the story. So, yeah, good for him. Good for him.
Well, and also, too, like, I know they say they want to take this in a drastically different direction, and, you know...
Same with every X-Men installment.
Yeah, the problem is I got a taste for that in Apocalypse, and, you know, they're talking about going more cosmic with this new story, and I know that's in fashion right now because of things like Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy, and we're expanding these more. And part of what X-Men Apocalypse lost for me was it's on the scale that all the other movies are on now, so it needs to be a more interesting movie to make that jump work, and so... I'm really curious to see how they're going to do this, because this is also centering around my least favorite performance in that movie.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like what she did with that. And it's not even her fault, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it was the writing of that character or if it was her performance or what, but I was excited to see that character come back, and she didn't do anything for me. So.
No, I've never really felt the writing of Jean Grey in the movies has ever been that great.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And
even with Famke Janssen, I didn't really feel like she was... great. I thought she was good.
I didn't know as much about the comics when I started watching X-Men movies, you know, so there was stuff I was more forgiving of, but especially now. The thing is, too, I'm wondering how much is he pretty invested in this story? Because that's a cool opportunity. If you've got, like, the worst Jean Grey installment and now you get a chance to redo it, like, that's a cool opportunity.
Yeah. All right, Patronajects, thanks for tuning in to this week's movie news of the week. Tune in next week, because there's always movie news coming out. I'm sure there'll be another cinematic universe thing to talk about.
Oh, hell yeah.
Can't get enough of the cinematic universes in comic book movies. Rare is the day where we actually talk about some original piece of material coming out.
Hey, man, who needs original movies when you have things you already know what they are?
Yeah, it's all about franchises.
Ooh, familiarity!
And you can catch our full movie news of the week over on Patreon. Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Dat is John Humphrey at Dat John Humphrey on Twitter and Instagram. Social media manager of Blumhouse. And as always, I'm the Greg Alba on Instagram and Twitter. Also, for you guys who actually stuck around to the outro, put up a reaction to that Seagull's Bad Lip Reading song. It got blocked immediately by YouTube when I tried putting it up a few months ago. It's now up on Patreon, just for you guys over there.
Look out.
Much love.